We'll be having an info session about our PhD program at Columbia Biomedical Engineering Department. So I'm here with Professor Lance Cam, who is the chair of the program, and then also Megan, who is representing the admissions office. So we'll address some questions. We're also expecting a graduate student to join us and talk a little bit more about student organizations and student life. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and we'll take it from there. And we have a Q&A going on. So if you have any questions, just feel free to put them in the Q&A. We'll address them as the presentation goes by, but also at the end of the presentation, we're going to have a Q&A session where we go over them. Okay. Go. Do you want to take it over, Professor Cam?
Sure. All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Lance Cam. I'm a professor of biomedical engineering, and I'm chair of graduate studies curriculum. So it's my pleasure to welcome you to today. Another one of the great things I get to do is, I guess, two slides for now, is on behalf of the faculty, welcome you to joining us. And I thank you for checking in with us today, and we look forward to answering your questions that you have regarding our doctoral our doctoral programs. So, who are we? Columbia, Columbia University in the city of New York. Wonderful place to be. This is a picture of Manhattan from just a little bit below. Fantastic energy in this place. We have Broadway, we got Brooklyn, we got biotech, museums, music. Think about fall 2026. Scatterboo will be back in action over here. You'll be able to get to see all of that. That'll be fantastic. So New York, fantastic energy, great place to do your studies because you really draw from everything, put your research in the context of being in a thriving metropolis. Where are we particularly? From that graph in the middle, we are just a little bit north of Central Park. Our main campus, Morningside Heights campus, which is our engineering and arts and sciences campus, is located right there. This is where we have some of our famous buildings and things that you see in our movies and things. And this is where much of our faculty have our laboratories. The other half, though, are up at our medical campus, and that's circled near the top. It's only about 5 subway stops away. Fantastic access to really, when you want to apply science and engineering to improving humanity, this is where resources have. You get to interact with a very wide swath of humanity with a lot of the latest technologies, with sequencing, flow cytometry, genomics, all of these. We have these technologies at the medical campus. In between the two, we have our newest campus, Manhattanville campus, coming up. And right now, this is the home of our Mind Brain Behavior Institute and our business school. We're looking to develop out more of our main campus so that comes along, and this is something you would get to see develop during your time with us. This is where we are. Number wise, reasons to come join us. We're ranked number 10 on US News World's rankings, number 10 in biomedical engineering. Fantastic people make this happen. This includes not just the faculty, but also the students. We have about 200 PhD students. It's about a 1-to-7 ratio of faculty to students in sort of the steady state. This together with our staff, this contributes to the strength really of our program. So, but beyond the numbers here, I think the main thing to think about in terms of research is our faculty on the next slide. We're about 30 of us covering a wide range of areas. Some of these are the traditional biomedical engineering categories of biomechanics, imaging, biomaterials, cell tissue engineering. You can also think of this in terms of other like physiological systems. And we cover musculoskeletal, cardiac, neural, immune, and more recently cancer as systems that we work on. And surrounding all this, not just science, not just the physiology, there's different approaches we take to this. Entrepreneurship, being sure that we can get our discoveries out into products that really do help humanity. Robotics and control, and more recently, machine learning and AI is really taking a central role in the way we do our studies. So that again is one of the main things that kind of highlight us as a graduate program, the faculty and the research you'll be able to do with us. But surrounding this, we have a fantastic community to carry out your doctoral studies. While this is biotech first, we have the opportunity to take those ideas out of the laboratory and get them into those products through a number of different networks that we have. The one on the right is our Lab to Market Accelerator Network. This gives the opportunity to practice a pitch deck and to interact with people who would be funding the next stage of the research, getting this out into a product. And we have a number of pilot programs that allow you to take those ideas, get the seed funding to make these projects possible, and really participate in the whole range of what we do in terms of product development. So on the next slide, this is what I wanted to get to. I'm sorry for being a little bit out of order there. I'm very excited about this. In addition to the research, we have a great community here. You'll hear a little bit later from Go BME. This is our graduate student organization, who runs some fantastic programs in terms of social mentoring and career development programs. I'll leave that for Ryan to talk about a little bit later. In our department level and also the school level, we also have our opportunities engagement committees. This allows us to really take advantage of more of the environment around New York, from jazz to Pride tours. We had these recently. Really a way to understand the community around you. And again, New York is one of the richest communities in terms of diversity that we have. And this is a wonderful way to engage and find out more about this. So you hear more about that in the next coming ones. I don't want to take too much of your time here because we have more important information in there. As you're deciding where to apply and later on which offers to accept, please keep in touch with us. bme.columbia.edu is our main webpage. You'll be able to find out the latest news from what we're doing. There are a number of programmatic things happening on there. In the bottom middle, you see Tissue Talks. This is the weekly webinar hosted by Professor Gordana Vundrak Novakovic, who brings in people from across the world once a week to talk in biomedical engineering. So wonderful series. Please join us for that to give you an idea of BME in general, but also what's happening specifically at Columbia BME. So please browse our website, keep in touch on the various events that we have. And then looking forward to your decision. Is BME the next stage of your career? Coming up very fast for many of you. Early congratulations. We look forward to your graduation ceremony. Certainly enjoy that next stage in life. And we hope you consider us for doctoral studies. On the bottom right, this is our class from a couple of years ago. Just as a last pitch here, the people on the right, these are our doctoral, are receiving their doctoral degrees. People smiling in the front, these are all BME graduates. So we have a great program that's very supportive for you. You do great research and go on to great careers. We'll be happy to answer more questions about it. But for now, I'm going to turn this back over to Rosa. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kim. Hi, everyone. Once again, my name is Rosa. I'm the Senior Student Affairs Manager. So there's a lot of interaction that we're going to have if you're admitted in the program, just to support you with any advising, choosing your courses, and just admin back-end work that makes everything happen for you here at the department. So we'll go over a little bit over the program. So the total degree requirements would be a teaching assistance requirement. You're required to do 2 semesters of TA. It doesn't have to be one semester after another. You can split them, but 2 semesters equivalent to 1 full year are required. You need to complete a thesis proposal and, of course, your thesis defense. So in terms of how your years are going to look like, once you're admitted to the program in the first year, you're going to be focusing on coursework and research. Second year, you complete coursework, focus on your research as well, and prepare to take your qualifying exam. For those students that are admitted to our MS PhD program, they would also be getting their master's degree. On the 3rd year, you focus on research. You can start doing the first phase of your TA requirement. And then 4th year, research and thesis proposal. And on your last year, ideally year 5, you would be doing research and your thesis defense. So in terms of curriculum requirements, we do have the MS PhD program and we have the PhD program. So if you have an undergrad but you don't have a master's degree, the MS PhD program would be the best fit for you. If you already have a master's, you can definitely apply directly to our PhD program. So for doctoral students to maintain full-time registration status, and this is particularly important for international students, they're required to be enrolled in a minimum of 12 credits. In the MS portion of the program if you're an MS PhD student, and then if you're a PhD student in one residence unit. The qualification exam requires a minimum of 3.2 GPA, and this does not include any research courses that are graded that you would be enrolled in. Students should not receive more than 2 Cs or below letter grades during their PhD program. So continuing on with the curriculum requirements, a total of 30 credits are required. Some of the required courses that we have are BME 6003, which is computational modeling of sociological systems. That is only offered in the spring semester, so you can prepare ahead for that. We require graduate level math courses. I believe they should be 2, not 1, so that's a mistake on our slide. So you have 2 math courses required. You have 4 BME graduate courses and then 2 semesters of BME graduate seminar. Oh, apologies, this is the MS curriculum requirement, so just 1 math requirement for MS students. For technical electives, the content should be BME related. 3 courses can be in our School of Engineering and Applied Sciences as long as they're level 4,000 and higher. And then 1 course can be outside of Cs. You can consult with your advisor for this. So we have students that take courses in the business school, for example, and that can be counted towards your degree requirement. And maximum of 6 credits of master's research can be applied to the 30 credit degree requirement. And courses must be 4,000 level or above and be letter graded. So this is for the MS curriculum requirement for those students that are going to be admitted in the MS PhD program. This is what your curriculum is looking like. So here we have a more visual sample of the schedule in semester. In your first semester, you take your math requirement, 1 section of the BME seminar, you take a 2 BME electives, and then 1 C selective. In your second semester, you would be taking BME 6003, which we mentioned is only offered in the spring semester. Your second BME seminar, your third BME elective and 2 CEES electives. And then on your last semester, you would be taking a CEES elective or a non-CEES elective, it's up to you. And then your last BME course. And like we mentioned, if you're an MS PhD student, in your last semester, you would be enrolling in doctoral research already to make that transition into your PhD track. So for the PhD curriculum requirements, you would need 30 credits beyond a master. So it's a total of 60 credits that you would need for your PhD. And in your PhD track, 30 credits are required to be completed. Some of the required courses are BME 6003, we have mentioned in the past, 2 graduate levels of math courses, and this can be applied math. It can be in a statistics department. It can be our biostats course as well. You would need 2 semesters of BME graduate seminar and 6 residence units. 2 of those 6 residence units are applied from your master's degree. So once you finish your master's, if you're an MS PhD student, 30 credits and 2 residence units are transferred to your PhD track. And if you already have a master's from another institution, we are going to transfer 30 credits and 2 residence units to your PhD track at Columbia. In terms of courses and research credits that you can take up to 21 credits of doctoral research. And we always advise students to be in contact with their advisor just to make sure that they're taking the right courses, or if there is a course that we're offering that aligns well with your research, then you could also make the most of that opportunity. A little bit more into detail for the doctoral qualifying exam. It is offered in January of each year. for you to take the qualifying exam, you must have had completed 30 credits, have a GPA of more than 3.2 without research grades, like I mentioned before. The format is an oral exam and also a written evaluation of papers. And we suggest students to take their math courses prior to applying for the qualifying exam because it does have a math component to it. And other courses that we suggest are BME 4001 and 4002, and of course, the required core BME 6003. And any other course that you can identify with your advisor that would best support you and prepare you for the qualifying exam. So your master's in philosophy is something that you also get while you're doing your PhD here at Columbia Engineering. The requirements for it is 3.2 GPA, 30 credits above the MS. So this is a completion of the 60 required credits for your PhD. You must have passed your qualifying exam already, completed your 6 residence units and your 2 semesters of TA. So this is a bit later on. In the later on years of your PhD track. So that's about degree requirements. We can go over any questions at the end of the presentation, but I'm going to go ahead and pass it along to Ryan, a PhD student who is also representing the student organization, Go BME.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Rosa. My name is Ryan Hassan. I'm a third year PhD candidate in Santiago Correa's lab. And I'm also representing Go BME, which is the Graduate Organization of Biomedical Engineers. So Colombia has a lot of groups. There's a lot of student organizations led by students, and most of us fall under the Engineering Student Council. And within that engineering student councils, there's departmental groups such as us representing the biomedical engineering department. And we also have a lot of affinity groups. There's a group Chord Square, which is for minority in science. There's Sweeney, Women in Science, etc. And I'm going to talk to you a bit about GoBME, which is basically the student organization that will be creating events for all graduate students in the biomedical department, so master's students and PhDs. This is the board. We're composed by a mix of master's and PhD. I'm the president. We have an external VP, whose task is to create events with groups outside of the department as well as outside of engineering. For instance, Vanessa just organized a startup event where she took students to a startup hub and they got to know more about biomedical startups. We have our internal vice president, Jacob, who sits running the boards. Secretary, we have 2 outreach chairs whose goal is to create outreach events. So whether that's with high schoolers, whether that's to assist students with deciding what the next steps are. We have our social chairs who take care of creating social events, mentorship, communications, and I mean, I don't need to go into too much detail about everyone, but we're a group of students, as I mentioned, forming masters and PhDs. Typically, PhDs are more involved just because we're here for longer. We're here for 5 years, while master students are here for 1.5 years to 1 year, and their pace is much quicker. They have a lot of classes where PhDs, we're more involved in the community and we're here for a longer time. And we do a few events. As I mentioned, there are a lot of student organizations at Columbia. So some events are organized with other groups. For instance, up here we have on the top right, we have our St. Nicholas Park cleanup, which was an outreach event where we cleaned St. Nicholas Park, which is a beautiful park near Columbia. There's a lot of parks, by the way, around Columbia. We have Riverside Park, Morningside Park, St. Nicholas, and also Central Park is only a 15-minute walk away. So we typically do park cleanup volunteering. And then we also typically have our uptown and downtown socials. So as Professor Cam mentioned in the beginning, we kind of have 3 campuses, but you can imagine that we're split between the medical campus and the Morningside campus. And we have a bunch of events trying to bring the students together, as well as separate events in each location. And we typically have an end of year social, which typically goes paired with a department social. So the department also takes very good care of us. We typically have a Christmas social around Christmas time where they book out a bowling alley and it's a great time. And then in the spring, right before the summer, they book out a bar on a boat near Columbia, and it's a great time. So yeah, so Go BME works together with the department to create a lot of events to make sure the students are having a good time because as PhDs, we're here for a long time. We all know it's not the easiest journey, but we're all here to help each other have the best experience. We also have intramural activities run by the intramural chair. We have a basketball team, volleyball team, etc. As I mentioned, we do crossovers with other organizations. It's a great place to get free foods and free drinks. And yeah, we're happy. We're looking forward to having you guys join us next year, and hopefully see you not only at the events but also participate in the student life. And that's it from me. Thank you. And yeah, feel free to follow us on Instagram once you join us.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Okay, we'll go ahead and have admissions information for Megan. Thank you, Megan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Jameson. I'm the Associate Director of Graduate Admissions here at Columbia Engineering. So I'm going to talk with you today, first starting with our application. So we'll start off with the deadlines. So you can see all of our deadlines listed here. The application for 2026 is currently open. Our deadlines do vary based on program and degree type. Our website has more detailed information on these deadlines, but all doctoral programs have a deadline of December 15th for the fall entry. Now, moving into our application requirements, our requirements are pretty standard. So, we'll ask you to submit an online application. You'll also submit your transcripts of every institution you've attended. We'll ask you for 3 letters of recommendation, as well as a resume and a personal statement. For English proficiency, if you are submitting these scores, we accept TOEFL, IELTS, Duolingo, PTE. You can send any of them. You only need to send one if that is applicable to you. The GRE is optional for 2026 applicants, so you are welcome to submit them if you have taken them and you feel really good about those scores and you want them to be a supplemental material for your application. You are more than welcome to send them, but if you haven't taken it or you don't feel great about the scores, then you don't have to send them. It won't negatively impact your application to not send them. We also want to mention funding quickly. So, we do get a lot of questions about funding options for graduate school. We reserve the bulk of our funding for our PhD students, and they are all fully funded through research or teaching assistantships. And that includes all of the expenses you see listed here. So, funding will cover your tuition, health insurance expenses, facilities fees, and tuition. But we do, of course, recommend our PhD students apply for external funding opportunities as well, just for any supplemental needs you might have. The QR code that you see on your screen here will take you to a little bit more information about funding as well. Okay, now transitioning a little bit into student life. You did just hear quite a bit about student life, but I'll just run through quickly what our Engineering Student Affairs Office offers. So, of course, here at Columbia Engineering, we are very serious about academics, but we also really value building community here among our students, faculty, and staff. So, our hope is that you will be engaged and connected through some of these organizations that you see here. So, similar to undergraduate student life, engineering graduate students participate in lots of different organizations. So we have some groups that are based on industry and research. We also have just interest-based clubs. And if you're unable to find a club or organization that interests you, you're able to create your own. So again, we really encourage everyone to join one or more of these groups. We really believe that it enhances the graduate experience. And then we can just move on to the next slide here. An important part of student life also includes the work done by our graduate student wellness team, and they take a multifaceted approach. So you can see here all of the dimensions of student health that they include in their wellness programming. So this programming is largely focused on your well-being. So they offer things like yoga instruction, stress management workshops, and other useful tools to assist you in achieving balance during your time here as a graduate student. The Office of Engineering Student Affairs also hosts and supports many graduate student socials so that our students can have a chance to really get to know their peers in a social setting. So we have some photos here and on the next couple of slides of past events that have been facilitated by the ESA office. So they host trips to Broadway shows, sporting events. I believe they do a cruise every semester, but they have lots of events both on and off campus for you to attend and participate in. So again, our application is open currently. So if you have not started yours already, now would be a really great time to start. So you can use this QR code to access that application. If you have any questions about the application itself or the process or really anything that admissions can help with, our email address is here on this slide at the bottom, as well as our phone number. So please reach out to us if you have any questions. We would love to chat with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. And here we also have our contact information. So you can email us at bme@columbia.edu with any questions regarding the program, degree requirements, faculty research. And then we have some other links about our socials, the YouTube, like I mentioned before, that has some recordings of our past info sessions, and our website where you can find more information about the degree requirements and curriculum for PhD or MS PhD students. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen at this point, and then we can go over some of the questions that we have probably received in the Q&A. And hopefully, one question answers others that people may have but have not typed yet. So let's see. Can I use the same recommendation letters I submitted for the computer science program when applying to the BME program, since all of them are same professors? I believe it really doesn't matter if they are the same professors. What would be best is for the letter to be addressed to the biomedical engineering department. So just to make sure that you do that in terms of the formatting of the letter.
In terms of like systems within the application system, if you're using the same account, so the same email address that you use to create the application profile, you can technically reuse those letters if you're reactivating those application materials. But generally, like she was saying, it's not something that we would necessarily encourage because those letters are not specifically being addressed to the biomedical engineering department. And that's something you want to make sure of, not just in the letters, but in all of your application materials, is that you are specifically talking about the program that you're applying to, why that program, why Columbia Engineering's biomedical engineering program. So just something to think about as you're preparing your materials.
Thank you, Megan.
Well, a quick question, Rose. Aren't, if I'm mistaken, students cannot apply to more than one PhD program within C's, right? So if they wanted to use the same letters for computer science and BME, they cannot apply to both. Just to make sure they're aware of that.
Yeah.
Correct. So students are only able, whether it's master's or PhD, you're only able to apply to one program per semester. So it really would depend on your situation. If like you, for example, you are a master's student in CS right now, a lot of the time students will want to reuse those materials. And it's, again, you can, but we really don't advise that.
Thank you for bringing that up, Ryan, and thank you, Megan, for clarifying. Do applicants need to have an undergrad or master's degree specifically in biomedical engineering, or is a computer background science also acceptable? Lance, do you want to cover this one?
Sure, that's a great one to cover. I think there were a couple of questions in the same direction. What we do in biomedical engineering is highly interdisciplinary, and we each area has its own kind of areas that it draws from. So we absolutely welcome applications from outside of BME. This is what brings a lot of the richness to the program.
Thank you. What is the selection timeline? Is there any campus visits after offers are out? So in terms of the selection timeline, we hope to provide a response to students early March, or at least in March. In terms of campus visits, those students that are invited for interviews are going to be able to join us in campus to conduct their interviews in person. And this specifically applies to students that are apply to our program and are located in the US. For international students, they would conduct their interviews virtually. International students outside of the US. If you're an international student and you're already in the US and if you're invited for our interviews, then you're more than welcome to join us in person in campus. In terms of, is the MS PhD program longer than a regular PhD, and do we have to pay for the MS part? It's really not longer. It's the same time frame. Your coursework is going to look a little bit differently because you do have to fulfill the MS requirements, and you do not have to pay for the MS part. You would be funded for that. You will get a fee waiver for students that attended the info session, so make sure you use the same email that you used to register for the Zoom info session in your application.
There is a question coming up in the chat from a student from Hong Kong. And they're just asking that whether the fact that their undergrad was carried out in English as a teaching medium, whether they need to still apply for like a language level. And I believe not, right, Megan? As long as they can show that their studies, whether I think someone also asked about the master's was carried out in the US. I think as long as any form of higher education is in English, you don't have to submit any English levels.
Most of the time, yes. There are a few exceptions. So, India, some of those schools, it might be in English. They would still need an English language exam, but pretty across the board, if a student is getting either a bachelor's or a previous master's or something in the US, they would not be sending an English language score. If you have any questions or are wondering, we have a lot of very specific information about exactly who and who does not need to submit those. So I really encourage you all to visit our website. If you're still unsure, please email my office, the graduate admissions office, and we can walk you through exactly what that should look like for you.
A couple of questions about the matching with laboratories. Yeah, we do a direct match admissions. It is really, I think, in your best interest to not just when applying to Columbia, but for any of the programs, identify faculty you would be wanting to work with. It is really a much more personal interaction than previous studies. You're really identifying a mentor that you're going to have a long-term relationship with throughout your career. It is best to have an idea of which areas you'd be interested in working in. You can reach out to them, find out things from, are you recruiting this year? What projects do you see coming on the horizon? And really, in your best interest to do some of that footwork before the application, or at least before the interview process happens, to get an idea. Is this really the match for you? And I think that will handle a lot of the questions in here about reaching out. We do have the mechanism for doing rotations. It is not used too often. We can arrange it between like one or two laboratories to decide, but the usual modality is to apply directly to the faculty. And at the time of the admissions, we include the match.
Thank you. In terms of a question regarding the application be considered if one of the recommendation letters is submitted at a later date than the deadline. We highly encourage you're in contact with the people drafting your recommendation letters and prevent this from happening, but we'll still review applications that receive materials after the deadline.
Also, there are a few students asking whether having a master's will help them ahead of time when it comes to the master's PhD. So coming in with a master's, you will still have a 5-year PhD journey. You will simply already have carried out your master's class requirements, so your workload will be less. For instance, I came with a master's as well from Trinity in Ireland, and I simply had less classes to take compared to students coming straight out of undergrad. So I'm still carrying out in 5 years, but this allowed me to go straight to my research within the first semester. So that's the only advantage is you're already coming with those requirements, and you can dive straight into your research and not be too worried about taking too many classes at the beginning.
See some questions about doing research and does it help the application? I mean, our review is holistic. I mean, we balance all the different pieces, performance and academics, certainly research and the letters that come supporting that describe really not just you did research, but where were your strengths in research and the area of the research. These are all very important pieces of the application. So definitely describe those. Describe what really got you excited about doing biomedical engineering. Describe what skills you have, certainly. These will all help make an application that helps us make the match between you and the PI's laboratory.
I just saw, oh, sorry, go
Go ahead,
ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
I just saw a question about, New York City is an expensive city. Do graduate students have access to on-campus housing? PhD students are guaranteed housing on campus. So you won't need to worry too much about how you're going to find an apartment. That's something that, similar to how we reserve funding for PhD students, we also reserve on-campus housing for PhD students. And we have a university office of housing, and then we also have an engineering specific office of housing. So it's really a comprehensive support system for you to kind of move through that process.
In terms of the fee waiver, I see a few questions regarding that is automatically applied to you. So you don't need to do anything else on your end to get that applied. I do see another question regarding when does interview weekend happen. That is usually in February. If you're in the US but away for some other commitment that you may have, then you'll probably have a virtual interview. We don't carry out in-person interviews after the set time that we have for interview weekend. Lance,
Lance, as if,
yeah, sorry.
go ahead.
I see a few questions regarding being admitted to a lab that is not primarily in BME or having a PI outside of BME. Do you want to cover that?
Certainly. Thanks for finding that in there. Yeah, again, BME is a very wide-ranging endeavor, and it is possible to be working in the PI's laboratory who's outside of our department. Please take a look at our website, and what you'll be looking for are faculty who are designated as affiliate faculty. They have a relationship with the biomedical engineering department that makes this process much easier. They're familiar with us, we're familiar with them. Take a look at those. They will be participating in the admissions process. I do also suggest that, like, if this is good, most of our affiliates are coming from the medical school. We have affiliates in the engineering school as well. I do suggest that if you're looking at affiliate who's in the engineering school, take a look at their home department as well. Quite often there's a better match there between that program and your interests. But overall, research in a faculty in area that is kind of adjacent to BME is very, very welcome. Again, this is where some of the most exciting work happens.
And also, Lance, there's a few questions about um, admission, the size, or how many students are typically admitted per cohort. Um,
Cohort sizes, we range between about 20 to 40 per year. This is about a 5 to 10% acceptance rate, but don't let that the selectivity really affect you. Identify PIs that you want to work with. Again, this is really a different kind of interaction. You are developing a mentorship interaction with the PIs. It's great to see everyone grow once they leave my laboratory and go on to their own things. We keep in touch, and so you really want to focus on the PI. Is this an area you want to work in? Ignore the other numbers. Find, is this something you want to do? Get to know them by sending an email first, and that's really where the match should come from.
And as Professor Cam mentioned before, make sure that the professor you're interested in is actually hiring that year. Some professors will hire every 2 years. They'll hire, a group of 3 PhD students in one go. So it's possible that this application cycle, they're not hiring anyone. So as Professor Cam mentioned, make sure when you reach out, ask whether they're taking in anyone, and around because this is a direct admission program.
I see questions regarding reaching out to faculty prior to applying. We do recommend that. So just like Professor Cam mentioned, take a look at the faculty that we have listed on our website. You can explore their lab websites as well to see what they're working on. And do reach out to them and share a little bit more about your background and interest.
We recommend it. It's not explicitly required. So we may identify 5, 7 faculty within our department you want to work for. We're all fantastic laboratories. You don't have to reach out to each of them first. If you have an area, we really do recommend you reach out to at least one to get an idea. And as Ryan said, are you taking on students? But it's not a formal requirement that you reach out in advance. What to make a strong application with? This is a tough question. uh, Again, we do a holistic kind of admissions, and we are aiming for really a mentor-mentee relationship. Ultimately, again, one that lasts a long time. We see your careers develop. That's one of the most rewarding parts about this process. Uh, any way that we can really get to know you better. Grades and things, yes, those are part of it. GREs, if you submit them, they go into consideration, but they're far from the only things. Um, uh, Express why are you in BME? Uh, what what's driving you? What do you want to do? Your research experiences will be very helpful in supporting that we can work together in that direction. Put yourself in the position ultimately if you want to be either in academia, a professor ultimately, or working in a company, really heading up a research area. Think about what you would be looking for in those applicants. It's a great exercise to turn to kind of be on the other side of the fence and think about what are the things that are going to make that the strongest. I don't think there's any one piece that absolutely is going to beat out the others. Certainly, GREs are not that. Um, um, Look at the other pieces together, and the better we can get to know you, the stronger the application is.
there are two questions that revolve around collaborations. One is whether, once admitted within the department, whether people can collaborate between different labs. And another student was asking, how does collaborations work between Columbia and other schools?
Those
Co-mentorship, actually. The question is specific about co-mentorship, which I guess
about
a few lab have this. Before Professor Leong has a few students who are co-advised between him and faculty from different schools, if I'm not mistaken, potentially.
these are all possible. I mean, these are encouraged. Um, I'm students in my lab when I started my laboratory, our original fields were neurons, neuroengineering, and trying to make networks of neurons. We switched from that to working on immune cells through collaborations that happened across town between us and the Skirball Institute. And that was one of the most impactful things that we ever did. Um, the New York has many medical centers within the area here, and they range from a wide range of expertise, from molecular to societal. Um, and these all have different facets that can work together. And this is, again, this is where some of the best stuff happens. The newest things that really will be changing how we treat humans in the future. We encourage those. Um, whether that has a formal mentorship or appointment kind of interaction is something that can vary a lot. You don't need to have a formal interaction with that. You can just collaborate. We do have the opportunity to have a more formalized kind of thing. They will definitely be on your dissertation committees. We require you have at least one person who's external on your dissertation committee, and that's a fantastic way for them to be not just aware of, but also involved in your process. But I think when you're considering these, it's really best to think of them as from the bottom up. This is the cool stuff. New York, crowded. You run into somebody at a football game. You start talking about stuff during halftime, and the collaborations come from there. Start with that. This is where the magic happens. But Ryan, you probably have perspective too on how and what you've seen.
I I think typically collaborations come about when they make sense. It will depend on the state of your research. It will depend on your PI's goal. But typically, if you are interested in doing something and you go up to your PI, hey, like I'm having trouble with this, this lab is working on this, there really isn't a reason for that collaboration not to happen. Um, and as Professor Kam mentioned, there's a lot of collaboration that happen. It is pretty common for students to be co-advised between, it can be co-advised between two labs or for labs to be very close to one another. For instance, our lab works closely with Jose Mac Figueroa. I want to butcher his name here, who is in genomic space because we want to do sequencing of our material. The BME department is very, very collaborative because the BME field is very cross. Um, um, yeah, there's a lot of intersection of the very different subfields of BME. So it's a very collaborative space compared to other departments where they're just primarily stuck in what they're working on.
Regarding,
Cross-disciplinary, that's the word I was looking for. Sorry. The cross-disciplinary field.
you're good, no worries. There's a question regarding being considered for the master's program if you're not accepted in the PhD. There is an option in your application where it's up to you to select if you want to be considered or not. So if you're denied from the PhD program and you selected yes, then you'll be considered for the master's program admissions.
And there's a question about the flexibility of the coursework, as well as research schedule. I think it is quite flexible and it's also professor dependent. You know, some professors will like you to take classes that are relevant to what your project will be. you know. Um, Other professors are a bit more flexible where, as long as you're putting in the hours to your research, you can go and take a class that has nothing to do with your field of research. It is a bit dependent on the case scenario. But also when it comes to research schedule, uh, the PhD at the end of the day is a journey in which you will learn to be an independent researcher. And one of the biggest challenge of the PhD is knowing to manage your own time. Most PhDs struggle with this in the beginning. You have to come in, you have X amount of objectives to do. No one's really looking about when you're coming into lab or how many hours you're spending. So you need to learn to schedule yourself and know what to prioritize and what is more important. Now, some professors might be more involved in this, and some professors might be uh, more detached and let you be fully autonomous. Um, but the PhD journey in general is quite flexible when it comes to research hours. Some students like to come in, work at night. Some students like to come in the morning and leave earlier. Some students like to keep their weekend fully off, while some students take it a bit easier during the week and come in on the weekend. Again, it's case by case scenario, and whatever works with you and whatever works with your professor. I hope that answers the flexibility question. I don't know if Lance, you'd like to add anything more to that.
I fully agree. I fully agree with Ryan, how Ryan described this. It's uh they're balancing these is an important part. Um, Everything takes up 75% of your time each. So learning how to balance the different pieces uh, really is something that you can see how others do it. You got to find the way it works best for yourself too.
I see some new questions regarding, again, the size of the cohort. So like Professor Kim mentioned earlier, from 20 to 40 students, it all depends. And in terms of lab rotations, we do a direct match with a lab. So you will know from the beginning in which lab you would be working on. I do see another question regarding alumni networks or way to connect with students, way to connect students to industry jobs. So we do have a career advising team in engineering as a school, and then also in our department, we're in the process of getting one to join us at the departmental level. But we do have a lot of resources to support you in that. And like it has been mentioned in the info session, a lot of student organizations from students that are actively working in industry or have experience with it that can definitely help you. And within the engineering school and even the admissions office, I believe workshops are offered to support you also in the process. If you want to practice a mock interview, for example, or if you want to work on your resume or cover letters, those are all resources that we have in the university to support you with that.
Very specific question on Professor Kaheen. Yes, she is part of the teaching and research community here. I think what happened on that list that we had, that is our core BME faculty. Professor Kaheen is part of our. She has a joint appointment with BME, the equivalent of a joint appointment. So unfortunately, we couldn't fit all the joint faculty in that one over there. But she is an active and much valued part of our community here. It does fantastic work. Internships. I see a question on that. These are very valuable. It's good to have a discussion with your PIs on these. But what they do offer is the chance to explore your research outside the context of that specific laboratory. This is some time off in the local company. Uh, this is the break that could happen some point within your studies. They are very valuable. They give you different perspectives on your research. They are allowed. There are many of them within New York City, which is one nice thing about where we are as well. Um, uh, how you go about do those? This is one again. The best place to start is to talk with your PI about when is the strategic time to do this. Is this particular one that you have offer for? How well does that fit into the overall trajectory for you. Ryan, I don't know if you would like to add something to that.
Sure, I was still muted. Um, from as Professor Cam mentioned, of course, it's allowed, but also it needs to make sense in your PhD journey. You know, if uh, something hasn't been working in the lab or a research project has still started to be kicked off, and then you're like, oh, I want to leave, go this summer for an internship. Your PI might say, well, this is just working now. You probably should focus on this now. So it's more also about when does it make sense in your PhD journey? Because your priority also is to wrap up your project. You know, you have your qualifying exams in your second year, then your next goal or landmark will be having your thesis proposal, and then finally your thesis defense. So you need to also make sure personally that the internship you're picking makes sense. Um, uh, and I think this is also personally, for instance, I was thinking and looking into potentially doing an exchange program because we had a visiting scientist come in last year from Italy for 3, 4 months, and that was great. I was like, it would be interesting to be able to do something like this. And I think if it makes sense, if you come to your PI and be like, hey, I've achieved X, Y, Z, I think it makes sense to do an exchange program during this time or an internship. I can learn this valuable information. I could bring back this to the lab, or it will contribute to my future. Your PI wants you to get to where you want down the line. So I think, but again, it goes back to it's a case by case basis, and it obviously needs to make sense. But from what I know, typically students do an internship around the summer of their fourth year or a third year, depending on their research project. Because typically your last 2 years of your PhD, so fourth and fifth, is when you're really pushing to get as much data out there for your thesis. So based on that, students will do an internship the summer of the fourth to fifth or third to fourth. But again, this goes back to the flexibility of the program. Every student will have a different experience and journey, and will have different goals. And based on your goals, you will have a different experience at the end of the day.
I see a few questions in terms of admissions and when you list a faculty as, the faculty you're interested in working with. If you list a faculty, it's not going to close off your application to be reviewed by just that faculty you list. So all faculty in the department are going to have access to review your application. So don't be scared to just put a name that you're interested in. It will not prevent other faculty from reviewing your application and potentially inviting you for an interview as well. Okay. I think we covered a lot. I don't know if you want to address any other questions, Professor Cam or Ryan, before we conclude the info session.
There are two last questions that revolve around the exact process of direct admission. I don't know if you covered this, and I might have missed it, but students are simply asking whether it's the professor they select as an intended supervisor who review the application, or does it go through a general, department review and then that gets submitted to the professor?
Yeah,
I think the
so
two last questions in the Q&A
yeah.
revolve this.
Do you want to cover that one, Lance, Professor Cam?
Sure. Yeah. It's we're definitely focused on trying to find the right match. We do when you put your application in, you'll see that there's things in your personal statement you can list who you're interested in working with. On the application itself, there's a checkbox on which faculty you are interested in working with. In either one of those, as Rosa said, click the ones that you're most interested in. We're not jealous of each other. We're not going to get mad that somebody saw that. Oh, I saw Nadine was just mentioned. She had a call out over here. I'm not going to look. that we get together pretty well. So click on those. That is one way that we be sure that the faculty who you are interested in see your application. And from there, it's kind of a mix between them. It's both individual review, but then we also have multiple faculty look at each application. So it's somewhere in the mix between those two of those kind of the way we all work. The individual input is just like your journey is going to be very important, but it's done in the context of working with the other people in the community.
Thank you.
And this is also then seen during interview week, where you might be interviewed not only by the professor you're interested in, but by another faculty, just to make sure you're a good fit to the program as a whole.
Thank you. Well, thank you everyone for joining. If we didn't get to answer your question, just feel free to follow up with us via email at BME at columbia.edu. It's been great to have you all here. We look forward to receiving your applications, and thank you everyone, Megan, Ryan, Professor Cam, for joining us today. This will be recorded and posted in our YouTube, and make sure you check out the one that we carried out in September. The Q&A looks a little bit different. Every group has different questions, so it's useful for you to go over that as well. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
And good luck with everyone's applications.
Yeah. Bye.